Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight at the presentation of the impact of prompt on verbal language development by Amy Bergeson. Amy is a pediatric speech language pathologist and mom to a 3-year-old boy with Cat6B. Amy has worked for 18 years in an educational setting for children with complex communication disorders. She'll be sharing her experience as both a professional and mom.
Thank you, Emil. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining tonight. It's been kind of a hot topic lately, prompt approach and our children with Cat6A or Cat6B. Was mentioned by some medical professionals at our most recent conference and also at last year's in Maryland and this year in Boston. And I'm happy to share my experience being a prompt trained therapist as well as a mom to a little guy with Cat6B. I'll first just go in and share a little bit about myself. I live in New Jersey with my family. This is my husband, Brian, and my boys, Jack and Ryder. Jack's 3.5 and Ryder is 2. I work full-time as a speech pathologist at CTC Academy in New Jersey. At CTC Academy, our students have varying complex conditions and needs and multidisciplinary approach that we use to work with them. They're involved in a heavy therapeutic program as well as a special ed classroom. So I've been working there for 18 years, and for the past 5 years, I've been the speech department head supervising the speech therapists at our preschool, kindergarten, early elementary school program. I'm a level 2 prompt trained therapist. And I'm sharing information today as both a mom and speech pathologist. So what links me to the Cat6 Foundation is my son, Jack. He's 3.5. He was fairly typically developing, had some issues with feeding early on. And at around 9 months old, he developed a severe seizure disorder. This led us to start to do some testing with genetics, and we discovered that he has Cat6B. Fast forward a little bit in his development as we're trying to, gain control of his seizure disorder. It was determined that he had drug-resistant epilepsy, and he also required a brain surgery, a left frontal lobectomy to control his seizures. He had that done around 20 months, and since then he has been seizure-free, and we've just been working with him to really gain just kind of all his developmental milestones. He has global developmental delays, he has apraxia, and like many other families here with us tonight, his biggest challenge is his speech and language development. I wanted to first share some important information that is in our Cat6 handbook. I thought this was really important just to kind of see the common traits that are within Cat6A and Cat6B, and also the less common traits. And I wanted to really highlight, the areas that a speech pathologist would work on, and that would be the global developmental delays, significant speech and language delays, feeding difficulties, hypotonia. These are all important things that are going to be impacting our children's development and their language development and expressive language development and verbal output. You can see in the chart on the right that all of those areas are, pretty much prevalent in all Cat6A and Cat6B cases. So our children really have significant areas that speech therapists are kind of a vital person on our team. We have a lot of people that our children are working with, and it's one of the main players to really help with their development. The focus tonight's really going to be on prompt, but I also do want to kind of highlight just overall what speech development and what can be worked on with our children. But let's first get kind of the backbone of what prompt is. I'm sharing this video directly from the Prompt Institute, and it's at thepromptinstitute.org.
When a child has communication challenges, it's important to get the right help as soon as possible. And over 1 million people have improved their ability to communicate through receiving prompt therapy. Prompt speech therapy is different from traditional approaches. Because speech is created by movements of the jaw, lips, and tongue, a prompt speech-language pathologist uses their hands to teach the child how to move their jaw, lips, and tongue. And the prompt approach goes beyond speech production alone. It understands that communication is an interaction of the social-emotional ability to connect with others, cognitive linguistic understanding of language, and physical sensory ability to produce certain sounds. If any of these areas are disordered, delayed, or damaged, a client's ability to communicate will be impacted. That's why prompt clients learn words that are relevant and motivating when interacting with individuals in their own lives, or what we call functional speech. How does it work? Let's say a child is learning the word mom to get their mother's attention. First, the speech-language pathologist creates a motivating activity where the word can be repeated. Then, the prompt SLP uses their hands to support the child's motor movements. Mom, mom, mom. Learning new motor skills takes lots of practice, and family members are essential in providing support. Treatment research has shown that prompt therapy is effective 1 to 2 times per week in 30 to 45-minute sessions. Ready to learn more? To find a prompt-trained SLP near you, visit prompt.org. When a child has
That brief video just kind of gives you an overview of prompt, but I really wanted to go a little bit more in detail without kind of getting too clinical and keeping it very parent-friendly. PROMPT is an acronym. It stands for Prompts for Restructuring Oral Muscular Phonetic Targets. And what does therapy look like? You could see in the video that the therapist's hands were using prompts and tactile cues to manipulate the oral mechanism and to manually guide the child through a sound, word, or phrase. So the prompt therapists are trained specifically on sounds that target specific movements. And, you know, as they get to know your child as a whole, they're going to be working on cueing the child by placing their hands on their face to promote different sounds. So when a prompt therapist is in training, there's 3 levels of training, level 1 training, level 2 trained prompt therapist, and then a certified prompt therapist. So as they're learning this very specific technique, they're learning specific sound placement on the face and oral mechanism to help give those cues to motor plan where placement should be for these specific sounds. And the importance of functional speech during prompt is very important. We want the words and sounds to be motivating to the child. What's targeted in that motor pattern has to be specific to the child's needs and make it functional for their interactions. And then it is a holistic approach. You're working through motor breakdowns, and they use an assessment tool called the conceptual framework to really look at the child as a whole and see what sensory needs are, environmental needs, and how their movements and things are working when they're being prompted and producing sounds. And who can benefit from prompt? Prompt is appropriate for a wide range of patients with speech disorders and those who need support learning how to produce sounds and words more refined. And the most common clients have motor speech disorders like apraxia or articulation disorders or are nonverbal. This next video is just going to be sharing the 3 uses of prompt, and then I'll go over this a little more at the end.
Prompt can then be used in one of 3 ways. The first use, to develop an interactive focus or awareness for oral communication, is for minimally verbal children. In this next video clip, you will see Deborah Hayden working with a child to develop his use of the open vowel ah for affirmation. He is learning to turn his voice on using a vocalization that is purposeful and replicable in an activity that is engaging to him.
Good boy. Good boy. Get it in. Put it in. Good. Good. One more. Do you want it? Look at. Just here. Now let go. Good boy. Yes. I want it. Yeah. Do you want it?
The second use of prompt is to develop an association between simultaneous dynamic, tactual, and auditory input to specific words or concepts. In this next clip, we see prompt used for associative mapping of the concepts open and pull.
Open, open, that's right, we did our open, you opened it, good girl, now take it off, pull right down here, pull it off here, pull, that's nice, and pull. And you know what we're doing? Like this with your lip. Pull, pull. You did it.
The third use of prompt would be to develop, rebalance, or restructure speech subsystems at the sound, word, or phrase level.
Do you want to try it? Jumping or hopping? Okay. We'll say the girl. Let's tip your head one. There you go. Ready? The girl is hopping. Good job. She is hopping. You did the whole thing.
That's a clip from a longer clip that is available on YouTube if you wanted to watch it. It's about 12 minutes long. It kind of goes into a little bit more in depth, but I wanted to really pull this portion out just to kind of show you hands-on, kind of 3 uses of prompt and what the therapists are doing while they're working with children. So in the first clip, with the young boy, you could see that she was really working on that voicing onset. She wanted him just to learn that affirmation of that meant he's voicing and giving that response. In the second clip, they were working more on that mapping with associative tasks for open and for pull, taking shoes off. And also in the last one with an older child that had some connected speech and working on that more refined sound placement. And you could see when he initiated his language independently, it was more difficult to understand and less intelligible. And then when he had the tactile prompting, you could see it was much more accurate in his sound production.
Prompt.
This portion shares the motor speech hierarchy. This is really just something that I wanted to share with you guys because this is a tool that prompt trained therapists use when they're working and assessing our children. So you can see if you start at the bottom, that's breath support. When verbal language is developing, you have to have that respiratory control to really phonate and get out sound. So stage 1 and stage 2, tone and phonatory control, that's the basis before we're even getting to anything with oral movements. We have to have that breath to be able to support sound production. Take into consideration, our children with Cat 6A or Cat 6B having low tone, and just varying global delays that are impacting their movements, and that's a lot of times where we're going to be starting is just to gain that breath support and strength for the respiratory control to be moving on to the next phase. But you can see the next phase being mandibular control. That's the jaw movements. So it's the vertical plane. That's opening and closing. Sounds that would be impacted with opening. So he was doing that first sound after his voicing onset in the video. He was doing really getting that vertical plane open with mandibular control. Then moving up to labial facial control and involving more of the horizontal plane. Bringing the lips together and cheeks. Then moving up to lingual control. And then more sequence movements with co-articulating, having 2 patterns maybe move at the same time, like oh is doing 2 different planes. And then that's an example just of co-articulating movement. And then when they're getting more refined rhythm and fluidity, working on prosody. So this just gives you an idea when a prompt trained therapist starts to work with your child, they would be looking at this at what level they currently are at and what sounds they want to be introducing and working on to start prompting and working towards increasing that sound production. So where to start? What we're always going to want to ask is where does your child exhibit communicative intent? So if their answer is no, you're going to be starting with things like eye contact, joint attention, pointing and reaching towards things, having varying facial expressions, body language, ways that they're showing that they have communicative intent. Turn taking, babbling, vocal play, working on some social routines, gestures and signs. So all these things would be building communicative intent, and that we know that they're ready to be having those communicative experiences. So that's, and if the so we want to start building that as the foundation. If the answer is yes, that they already exhibit communicative intent, then then we want to be working on turning their voice on voluntarily. So if they're not able to get phony and turn their voice on, then we need to work at that stage 1 and stage 2 to working on that phonatory control and really having them gain control of voicing and letting them know that voicing onset is the start of communication, and that's the basis for their sound production. The next few slides are going to be just kind of personal to Jack's case. So this is when Jack first started voicing. He had one motor pattern. He just said bah. Bah was everything. He just had that pop the mouth open and bah, bah. So this is his prompt certified therapist, Dr. Jen Moore, who actually is going to be joining us later during the Q&A. And she's working with him. This is one of his earlier sessions. He began prompt. He probably had his evaluation in July, and this is one of his earlier sessions. And he followed the frequency of 2 times a week. And I think it's important to know that for Jack, he needed that kind of whole body motor planning. So he worked in OT at this practice and then went into his speech sessions and working in OT to work on some of those fine motor planning issues also, and giving him kind of a basis of his body awareness before going into speech really helped him to be ready to move these fine motor articulators in his oral mechanism. So he would go to OT for 30 minutes and then over to his prompt therapist for the second 30 minutes. So he would be at clinic for an hour.
Whoa, it's stuck. Push it in. Ah, he's still hungry. Should we feed him honey cake or fruit cake? The fruit cake one? Okay, hold it. Okay, remember, lips go back for E. So we're gonna do lips go back like this. E. Good. E. Good. You say lips back. E. E. Nice. You said eat. 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 Oh no! He pooped.
So I wanted to highlight in the beginning of that video that you heard Jack say ba ba. And what his therapist is working with him on is breaking that movement from just that vertical plane of ba ba to E, giving him a different pattern, different movement, since he was stuck in that pop it open pattern in voice. So she's working early on, is working with him to break that and start to work on the horizontal plane and do more E instead of just his ba.
Whoa.
This next clip is just probably about a month after that last one, and he is not being prompted, but you'll see him self-prompt as he learned. It's very common in children as we're doing prompt on them that they learn to start to self-prompt and cue themselves because they're used to that input. So you'll see him do that.
Okay, what do you need?
Bubba.
Yes, Bubbles, good job. Ready to open? Open, good, yay! You doing it again? Yes, high five. Okay, what do you?
And then this is a session just from this month. This is another Jennifer in that practice, Jennifer Hartman. She is his current therapist also, and she is prompt trained. So this you can kind of see, if you listen for some of the sounds that Jack's putting together, and also he's put in this session, he's putting together 2 words.
Put it on. Good. Go, go, go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh no, it's gonna fall. Stop. Okay. Are we gonna put on the tomato or the cheese? Tomato. Good. Hold your tomato. And we're gonna use our good words to say, oh, he's a tired boy. Look at me. Put. Match Jen. Say what I say. On. Good job. You said put on. I love it. That's beautiful. Put it on. Yeah, that's good. Wow. Oh no. Crush. And stop.
So what I love about this video, besides Jack putting together 2 words, because this is one of the first times he's really started to do that, is that you can see that the therapist prompts him and has her hands, manipulating with the cueing, and then she takes it away and does a lighter prompt of more just a mapping to kind of cue the muscles of what they're supposed to be doing, and then her hands are off, and you hear Jack say it much more accurate with just having that light touch before. So I think that's really cool to kind of see it in action, that almost fading the cueing as the session went on, and he was able to really have a nice production at the end with those 2 words. Then this video I just took actually this weekend, and it's in Jack at our house in her jammies. And I just wanted to share this because this shows a lot of kind of how far his language has come with prompt, and the carryover and kind of independence that he's having. So you'll see him using some of those lip movement sounds for but and then he's also doing more vowel sounds. And it's not all intelligible, but he has a lot more confidence, and I'm able to kind of model and kind of shape what he's saying and work with him without even doing the prompts.
Mommy.
Yes. Cereal?
Yeah.
Oh. What do you have? What do you have?
Choo-choo.
What should we do?
Choo-choo.
Choo-choo? Oh, cover. Should we play choo-choos?
Bye, choo-choo, bye-bye.
Play choo-choos in the basement?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for telling me.
Okay.
Do you need help? Help.
So I like that you just hear him saying a lot of different sounds. Obviously, he's not intelligible to people that probably don't know what he's saying, cereal, basement, even help. But he's come such a long way in just a year doing prompt approach. And I feel like, I don't like to say everything's, I think everyone uses a lot of tools in the toolbox, but this end prompt has been something that's really been responsive to Jack, but it is not the only tool that we're doing. I think he has a very comprehensive program, but prompt has been really a great addition. And I do attribute a lot of his expressive language development to prompt, and I'm just so proud of where he is. Okay, so the next slide is just going to be sharing what we can do. Keeps repeating as we do that. Sorry. Prompt trained therapists are available throughout the world and in varying countries. But if you don't have access to a prompt trained therapist, what can you do? Because I know I've had this conversation with several families already, and it's as accessible as they are in some areas, they're hours away in other areas. So what are some things that you can do as parents and caregivers at home? So you really just want to be modeling words and syllables and reinforcing modeling without expectation. And what that really means is that we're modeling language. We're not asking a lot of questions. We're modeling language so that our children are tempted to kind of imitate where we're at. And if your child is just working on that early voicing onset, just doing a vocal play and just getting them to kind of do sing-songy things back and forth and do things in a mirror, just getting them to be really watching what your mouth is doing, which kind of goes into the number 2 spot, and talk about what's happening. Oh, mommy's opening so big. Look at you moving your lips. And I love the way your tongue is moving. It's so wiggly. Get them kind of understanding more of what their mouth and articulators are doing. And then that understanding will really help them to be able to develop, more understanding as they're able to produce more sounds. And the last thing there is be a cheerleader, because new patterns and motor planning is very difficult. It's difficult when you're bridging kind of where you want the movements to go and how you want the output to be. It's a lot of work, and we know that for our children. They're working so hard in so many areas, and developing those motor patterns for speech are difficult. So it's going to be frustrating at times, but just know how hard they're working and let them know how proud that you are of them, and just kind of keep that conversation going. And that's kind of a great place to start. These are all shared from Dr. Jennifer Moore's Instagram account. She has some great tidbits and ideas, so I totally recommend following that if you're looking for some just, she really specializes in motor speech disorders and gives a lot of tips on that. And she's a certified prompt therapist. And one other thing that could work is if you don't have you're able to find prompt therapists. I'll go there first. So prompt therapists can be found in a search bank that's on the promptinstitute.com. I've saved that link for you guys there. And if you find that someone's not in your area and when you're searching, that consider doing a virtual appointment with a prompt therapist. They could help you establish goals and get to know your child more, and find a spot in the hierarchy and build carryover activities that would work for your child's specific needs. So that might be an option for people that aren't able to get weekly or biweekly appointments with a prompt trained therapist. The next thing I want to do is introduce Dr. Jennifer Moore. This is Jack's certified prompt therapist. She does specialties in pediatric muscle and motor-based speech disorders, and she's a certified prompt instructor. She owns 3 private practices in New Jersey and varying towns. And I also linked her website along with her social media pages that have some great information for parents and families.